Everything is gone.
You can't describe it until you see it.
I am thankful to be alive.
More incredible survivor stories from what the National Weather Service is tentatively calling the largest tornado outbreak on record. Thanks for joining us for Weather Center. I'm Kelly Cass.
And I'm Paul Goodloe. The threat for more tornadoes returns throughout this evening as well as tomorrow. We'll highlight the targeted areas in our exclusive TorCon. And sadly, the death toll from last week's severe weather has jumped again. Now here's the latest. The National Weather Service says it has traced 7 tornadoes that touched down in Arkansas early this week. And it also confirms 2 more tornadoes in Virginia today, bringing their total from their recent outbreak to 12. Now, the total death toll now stands at 341, but that number is expected to rise.
And most of the deaths occurred in Alabama, and FEMA has officials on the ground in an effort to help survivors cope with the aftermath. And
meteorologist Jim Cantore has a story from Tuscaloosa.
This area here in northeast Tuscaloosa, known as the Holt area, is what we had yesterday where we were near the college. People coming out, sifting through the rubble, trying to find whatever they can. This was a gas station that has been pretty much plowed over. Gentleman coming out today, finding his cash register, a few belongings, some of his bills and records, really all the things that he really wanted to find, he did. So he was one of the lucky ones. But to try and wrap your arms around the size of this disaster, it's almost impossible. We've got 1,000 miles, probably greater than that, of this kind of damage across Alabama. And it's not inconceivable that we may see very shortly in time tent cities go up across the state. I want to bring in my good friend Jeff Patrowski, who is a storm expert. He's a meteorologist, and we've known each other for years, and we've talked about and been a lot of these things. Jeff, a lot of the reports today coming in that shocked me the most were the missing persons reports. How could we see that number go up 3 days after?
I think it's just the amount of communications, the word got out about the devastation here, and people started calling their loved ones here, and they couldn't get a hold of them because of communications. So they started reporting to Red Cross and the local officials here that I'm missing this person. They haven't been able to contact them either by text or by cell phone. That's because of a tremendous cell phone communication problem here, as well as landline communication. I think a lot of those numbers, hopefully in the coming days, as communications are now slowly improving over the next couple of days, those numbers are going to come down.
Again, guys, just awful news here coming out of Tuscaloosa tonight, and really all across Alabama. This is a huge undertaking, and again, we don't want to forget about all the small towns that have been hammered from Mississippi into northern Alabama, into Georgia, where communication, as we mentioned and Jeff mentioned, is almost impossible right now. We really need to get communications up and running, and then we can get in here and get the kind of aid that we need. Apparently that is going to happen tomorrow. FEMA bringing the Armada in to make that happen. Back to you.
Jim, we appreciate the tornado outbreak. At least 342 people have been killed, and at least 40 of those were in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Hundreds of people remain missing, and more than 15,000 people are still without power. The National Weather Service now confirms the tornado that sliced through Tuscaloosa and Birmingham is what is called a high-end EF4. That means winds of nearly 200 miles an hour. Last week's deadly tornado outbreak became the deadliest natural disaster in the U.S. since Hurricane Katrina. The tornado that struck Birmingham was a long-track tornado that stayed on the ground for some 80 miles. Jeff Morrow is in Birmingham in Pleasant Grove.
Day 5 of the recovery here in the Pleasant Grove area. You have to remember that this is just one fairly small area. It's a very hard hit town. EF4 damage is what we're hearing, which is basically winds close to 200 miles an hour. In fact, they're saying it's high EF4 damage, and I can believe that. Some of the worst I've seen is in this general vicinity, just everything pretty much obliterated. But it's just a small area in a track that actually runs all the way down past Tuscaloosa and actually all the way over to the Mississippi and Alabama border. Again, you're looking at some of the devastation here. The houses have completely been razed right down to the foundation. The only thing really that's up anymore, just a few walls here and there, and maybe some of the basements that are actually below ground level. I do want to mention Governor Robert Bentley here in Alabama has declared a level 1 disaster, which basically puts this tornado disaster for his state on the same par as Katrina and 9/11 as well. So you can see how serious basically this whole disaster is. As far as the forecast here in the Birmingham area, well, we have been blessed for the last few days that it hasn't rained. But I think that's going to change as we head on through tonight. We have some rain coming into the area. It looks like it'll be only for the overnight hours and maybe into the early part of tomorrow, and then it should dry out as we head toward the weekend. Back to you.
Wrangler, our only manufacturer here in town, it's destroyed. The Piggly Wiggly, our only grocery store, is destroyed. Drugstore on the stand, the dollar store, everything in town is destroyed. There's not anything hardly that's usable now. Everything is got the tops off of it if it's not completely blown down. So we're going to have to completely rebuild the town.
Well, unfortunately, that is the story across. Pictures as well as the emotions are indescribable.
In southeastern Missouri, relief offices are helping people navigate through the red tape and applying for aid. Now, shelters are also providing free haircuts and eye clinics as part of the massive relief effort that is in full swing in tornado-ravaged Alabama and Georgia today. And we have live team coverage of the aftermath. Meteorologist Eric Fisher is in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. But let's begin with meteorologist Jeff Morrow reporting from Pleasant Grove outside of Birmingham.
Well, we're in Pleasant Grove in Alabama. This is the 5th day after the massive EF4 tornado roared through this area. The damage is just incredible. We're going to show you one more time a little bit of what we've been looking at here, and it really is stunning. Let's start off to the left here. You can see the house that's next to me, which was quite a nice house. We actually looked at some Google Earth pictures from above, and it has a pool in the backyard. Not much left of it now. As we pan across, though, you can see the damage spread across this area. Homes completely destroyed, right down to the foundations in many cases. Now, this is a pretty deep gully area or valley in between, but on the far side, there were many homes that all got blown basically down into this gully. It is strewn with, I guess what you'd have to say is debris, and it kind of looks like garbage at this point. In the distance, though, you can see some houses that really aren't that badly damaged, and that's not that far away. So you can see the close proximity to major damage and complete obliteration to really maybe just some minor roof damage. It just was the matter of a few meters or so. So again, recovery here very slow. We'll be talking about that as we head on through the rest of the day. Back to you.
And here's a look at the overall forecast.